Hello, hello, hello! Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we are drinking coffee and spilling tea. Over the past few months, I've been reading books recommended by celebrities, and today we are tackling Kendall Jenner. Not physically, just intellectually. So basically, I was watching Kendall Jenner's house tour on Architectural Digest because I like to judge rich people's taste in interior design. I like to think how differently I would decorate their multi-million-pound houses while I sit in my rented accommodation above a pizza shop in London. People get exhausted trying to figure me out, and I just let them. Anyway, Kendall Jenner has a lovely house. However, the video that she did with Architectural Digest left me feeling a little bit mad, a little bit agitated, and this is why. Look at the way that Kendall Jenner displays her books.
Everybody always asks me what these are. I'm not exactly sure.
Are you actually having a giggle? What is going on there? Look, I get it. Maybe I'm overreacting. I'm definitely overreacting. But why the hell are they spread out at the end of the bed like that? What? So I did a little bit of digging, and it turns out that Kendall has also recommended this exact same spread of books on her Instagram stories and in an article with Vogue. And so, like a perfectly sane and logical person, I kind of bought all of them. Can we talk about how stunning some of these covers are? Like, I didn't know there was such thing as hipster books, but these are giving me hipster book energy. The other thing is that they're all poetry or short story collections, which isn't what I naturally would gravitate towards, so I'm quite intrigued to read these. So yeah, welcome to the video. This week we are going to be judging Kendall Jenner's taste in books. Could be a long week. So I read the first book and Mamaja, come pick me up, I'm scared. Okay, I'm not gonna lie, we are off to the worst start possible. The first book I read was this one, simply because the title is so provocative. It's literally Show Me a Healthy Person. The structure is essentially a kind of montage of ideas in kind of tweet-sized chunks. It's all lowercase, there's no grammar, there's no punctuation, it's kind of set out like that, if you can see that. It's postmodern, definitely a product of the 21st century. It's cool, I get that. This is essentially a series of fleeting observations that are sometimes kind of funny, and they amalgamate into this kind of collage of self-deprecation, trauma, and sex. Emphasis on sex. Like, I think the word cum is mentioned on every single page. And we're not talking about cum on Eileen. And although it's non-linear, there are kind of themes and motifs that are threaded throughout the book to kind of make it feel like a cohesive piece of work. Darcie Wilder, I was rooting for you. We were all rooting for you. I've never in my life read a book and felt genuinely embarrassed for the author. Like, the secondhand embarrassment that I got from this book was actually painful. Listen, I'm not against the concept at all. I'm just against the way it was executed. As in, like, it made me want to be executed. Basically, Darcie Wilder just gives off the most pick-me energy I've ever encountered. It's this weird juxtaposition of like trying too hard to look like you're not trying at all, and having a kind of deliberately nonchalant tone whilst talking about things that are incredibly shocking behaviors, and I just thought it made it seem a bit calculated and therefore insincere. Yeah, I didn't enjoy this at all, but I appreciate the effort. Oh, actually, I need to grab this back to show you that on the cover there is a quote by Scott McClanahan that says, "This book is the future of writing." Is that a threat? If this is the future of writing, I'm shredding my English degree. Anyway, literally show me a healthy person, literally show me one good thing about this book. Okay, it's day 2 and we have another book with a very sexy book cover. This is just exquisite. So I've read the first few short stories in this collection now, and let's just say it's ironic that there's a chair on the cover of this book because it's the tables that have turned. I am loving it. This is so good. You know what else I'm enjoying? The fact that when I first started out on like YouTube and Instagram, I used to go to grind coffee shops in London to take my artsy, Instagrammable aesthetic pictures. And now they are the sponsor of today's video. What? This is the Grind at Home collection, and the aesthetic is immaculate. Is that or is that not the most beautiful coffee machine you've ever seen in your whole life? And I cannot espresso enough how good this coffee is. You see what I did there? And it's not too latte to get your own. We've got the matching milk frother, these pink reusable tins with the coffee inside, which make me want to redecorate my whole kitchen. And these are the coffee pods, which are Nespresso compatible. So we just chuck her in there, flick that on, pull down the lever, which makes me feel so cool every time, and then we're good to go. Give me that goodness. Listen, when I learn how to do coffee art, it's over for you bitches. And this is giving me a whole new definition of the daily grind. So this video is not just about taste in literature, it's also about tasting coffee. And grind coffee is chef kiss. Do you know how many coffee pods are sent to landfill every single year? 30 billion. And that's what's so great about the grind coffee pods, because these are 100% plastic free and fully compostable. So not only do these taste absolutely phenomenal, they're also so much better for the planet. Someone let David Attenborough know about Grind. In the meantime, while we try to contact Dave, I have secured a 25% discount on Grind's monthly subscription for you. So that means you can use the exclusive code JACK25 to get 25% off your first 3 months of a Grind subscription. Link will be down below. Check it out. I can't believe this is real. Thank you so much, Grind. I love ya. Okay, time has passed. Coffees and short stories have been consumed. This book is called The Houseguest, and it really made me think of Edgar Allan Poe. And as we all know, I'm an Edgar Allan Poe. I love that man. These stories are so creepy and sinister and mesmerizing, and they're just consistently really good. And each story leaves you having to kind of fill in the gaps of what happened before the story started or what happened after or even during the story. Amparo davila is a Mexican author. This is her first work in English, and I will be reading anything else that she puts out because this was so great. So thank you, Kendall. Hello there, and welcome back to Jack reading 8 books in 7 days. You know, it doesn't have quite the same ring to it. Okay, I've got it. Welcome to Keeping Up with the Car Crashians, because I am a car crash. Okay, so the next book that I read was this one. This is How to Cure a Ghost by fariha roisin. Right, I'm gonna say it. I think this is one of my favorite book covers of all time. In fact, the whole book is just absolutely stunning. I would say this has a very similar vibe and tone to Milk and Honey. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again, just because something appeals to a mass audience and can be understood by everyone, doesn't mean it's inherently bad. In fact, this poetry collection is really bloody good. As in, I was reading this on the train last night, and I was so engrossed in the poetry that I was reading that I missed my stop and didn't notice until like 3 stops later. But it presents this really powerful and poignant and interesting perspective of a queer Muslim and how she's kind of navigating a world that she feels wasn't built for her. It discusses intersectionality in a range of different scenarios. It covers colonialism, diaspora, love, belonging, and also privilege. And you know, I can see why Kendall Jenner is such a fan of this book. After all, she did end police brutality with a can of Pepsi, so, you know, CEO of activism. I mean, RIP Malcolm X, you would have loved Kendall Jenner. Anyway, back to the collection of poetry. There's a few kind of filler poems in here which I wish had been edited out because they do sort of kill the momentum at parts, but overall I thought this was breathtaking and I would recommend. I've just finished reading this book. This is called So Sad Today, and to be honest, I can't fault it. It did do what it said it would do on the cover. It made me so sad today. So sad that I spent money on this thing. This book is a freaking roller coaster. It's kind of similar to Literally Show Me a Healthy Person in the sense that it's very irreverent and postmodern, but this one at least didn't make me lose brain cells. You know, it's achieving the bare minimum for me. This is a selection of personal essays by Melissa Broder, and let me just read you some of the essay titles. So we have I Want to Be a Whole Person, but Really Thin, Help Me Not Be a Human Being, Honk If There's a Committee in Your Head Trying to Kill You. Okay, this one is called Love Like You Are Trying to Fill an Insatiable Spiritual Hole with Another Person Who Will Suffocate in There. And that essay is all about 2 people sexting for 30 whole pages. How did we get here? How did we get here? Weirdly, if you guys remember my video on Halsey's poetry, Halsey has this poem where she's like, on day 1 I realized I wasn't good enough. And that's exactly what the first essay in this book is about as well. And I hated it in Halsey's poetry collection and I hated it in here. I really feel like we just need to let this idea go. Like this whole when did I ask to be born idea. Let it go, guys. It's gone. Because it's just dumb. It's a tweet at best. A tweet that should have been saved in the drafts. Not an essay or a poem that makes it into a collection. It's about as clever as saying no one asked for the sky to be blue. Like it doesn't matter. Overall, I felt like this book was a better version of this book, but I still didn't like it. And I am so sad today. Wait, why have I never used this filming location before? This is... that's probably why. Right, get out of the way. Now that I've hit 400k, everyone wants a collab. Anyways, today's book is this one. This is Sea of Strangers. It goes without saying, this cover is divine. Before I talk about any author, I always make sure to look up how to pronounce their name, and when I searched up leav, this is what came up. So anyway, that was not helpful, and it's a collection of poetry and prose that is very much fine. Like, it's just fine. The poems said nice things, and they said them using nice words. All of the words I'm using here are positive, but they're just like aggressively average, you know? I found this collection just a little bit like forgettable, and I think that's because a lot of the ideas that are presented are ones you've probably come across before. For example, there's this one called Meant to Be, and it goes, if they were meant to be in your life, nothing could ever make them leave. If they weren't, nothing in the world could make them stay. Don't you feel like you've just heard that before somewhere? Hello!
Hello, darling.
Look at this setup, it's quite nice, isn't it?
Yeah, it's cute. Here, have these.
Thanks!
Wow.
What a result!
Have fun filming.
Thank you! We got the goods, just call me Snack Edwards. Anyways, as I was reading the collection, I just felt like I was coming across lots of things that I already knew or had already heard before, but just in a nicer way than I am capable of articulating myself, you know? For example, there's this one which is called With Anyone Else. You came into my life and made everything else feel like a rehearsal. Love always came to me as a question, but with you it felt like an answer. I didn't know I had put up walls until you brought them crashing down. And I couldn't figure out why love was different with you until I realised it hadn't been love with anyone else. That is quite lovely. So yeah, that is Sea of Strangers, and it's something that I think would maybe be a good gift to someone who you think would like poetry but doesn't read very much of it, if that makes sense. I've heard that Liav's other collections of poetry are a lot better than this, they're a bit stronger, so yeah, I would just say don't expect anything groundbreaking here. It's kind of similar to Kendall within the Kardashian clan because, you know, it's nice, it's beautiful to look at, but it's not necessarily serving us iconic moments. I don't even know where I'm going with this. That was Sea of Strangers. I will see you, strangers, tomorrow. You're not strangers, you're friends. Good morning, treacles. The vibes today are immaculate. Today's book was Tonight I'm Someone Else by Chelsea Hodson. And I hope you can see this, but the pages have deckled edges, which is a real treat. This book is introspective, psychoanalytical, and melancholy. Similar to So Sad Today, this is a collection of personal essays, but it's so much better. Chelsea Hodson sort of explores femininity and the experience of being a woman in society, but she doesn't shy away from kind of gruesome encounters and scenarios and things not always having the perfect conclusion and not always making the most morally sound decisions. So yeah, out of literally Show Me a Healthy Person, So Sad Today, and this, I would pick this every time. The one thing that I'm finding as a general kind of trend in this video is that with short story collections and collections of essays like this, they're not necessarily as gripping as like a novel would be, just because I think when you're reading a story, you're kind of, the incentive to keep reading is to find out what happens and how the plot develops. Whereas with these, when you get to the end of a short story or the end of an essay collection, it's kind of like self-contained and you could quite easily stop there. So I'm finding it more difficult to actually think about picking these books up, but that's very much a me problem. Going forward, I think I will continue to read stuff like this. I think the perfect kind of place for this in my life would be to put a book like this in my bag that I take with me on the tube, or, you know, when I'm commuting anywhere and I just want to read in like bite-sized chunks, because the kind of self-contained nature of these stories is perfect for that kind of scenario. And if any of you do pick up this collection, the new Love was my absolute favorite in here. It was so good. So she's in a class and her teacher asks her to imagine her peak experience, so the moment that is just pure happiness to reflect upon, and she realizes that she doesn't have one. And as of that moment throughout her life, she's always thinking about like, when is my peak experience going to be? So yeah, super cool, and I will see you tomorrow. Okay, so it is the final day and I've actually finished 2 books today. Firstly, we have this one. This is by Lydia Davis and this is Can't and Won't. And I can't and won't recommend this book. I cannot believe this won the International Booker Prize in 2013. Like, were no other books published in that year? It's not that it's bad, it's just definitely not worth that amount of praise. Like, it's basically kind of observations of the very small elements of our lives and like universally recognizable thoughts and feelings and sentiments and experiences, and those are kind of unpacked and highlighted. I just didn't really gain anything from reading this, I don't think. They're generally sort of short observations. It kind of feels like a whole book of someone telling you about their dreams. In my opinion, there is nothing more boring than someone telling you about a dream that they had the night before, because it didn't happen. It didn't actually happen. You imagined that thing. So I don't want to hear about it, and that's basically what this book is, but just for 300 pages. For me, this put the doll in Kendall. There's this one that's called Her Geography, Alabama, and it just goes, she thinks for a moment that Alabama is a city in Georgia. It is called Alabama, Georgia. I've got nothing else to say. However, this book was immaculate. This is called No One Belongs Here More Than You, and it's by Miranda July, and I would read this in April, May, June, July, and August, because I just thought it was really good. I reckon it's kind of an acquired taste, but like I have that taste. They're these wacky and wonderful short stories, but different to the other book, they're told in a really captivating way. For example, the first short story is called The Shared Patio, and it's all about this woman who lives above an elderly couple, but they share a patio, and she's always timed it so that she never goes on the patio at the same time as they're on there. But then one time she decides, I'm just gonna go and I'm gonna sit with the old man and we'll have a chat. Anyway, the old man has an epileptic fit, and instead of helping him, like you might expect, she falls asleep on him and communicates with him through kind of telepathy, I guess. Then the wife comes home and she's like, what the hell are you doing? Go inside and get his medication to help him. And she goes inside, and instead of getting the medication, she just looks at the family portraits on the wall. I won't give too many other spoilers, but the second story is about a lady who teaches old people how to swim in her kitchen. And it's all just quite bizarre. So if you're into that kind of thing, this is really quite great. I mean, Kendall Jenner has just launched that tequila brand, and I feel like this was probably written by someone who was drinking a lot of tequila, perhaps. It's kind of odd because I don't know who I would recommend this to, but I did really, really like it. These two were a real contrast. This is you versus the guy she tells you not to worry about. This was me versus Kendall Jenner. This is the Matalan catalog and this is the Chanel runway. So to recap, these were the 8 books that I read this week. These 3 definitely more Kardashian than Kardashian. This one was really, really boring, and these 2 were an absolute cringe fest. It's like Fire Fest, except this one actually happened. Sea of Strangers has some gorgeous lines, but it's not really unique. Tonight I'm Someone Else and How to Cure a Ghost had style as well as substance. These were quite fantastic. And then the creme de la creme, No One Belongs Here More Than You and The House Guest. These are both short story collections, which I adored. So, Kendall Jenner, this has been a real mixed bag. I did not expect to encounter books that I absolutely despised as well as books that I absolutely loved. But you know what? That is all the fun of the circus. And really and truly, this is what Kendall Jenner looks like when she reads these books. Meanwhile, while I read these books, I look like, well, me. So the joke is very much on me. Thank you guys so much for watching all the way to the end of this video. I really appreciate it. And of course, a massive shout out to Grind. Firstly, because this coffee has got me through this week. And secondly, because it's both delicious and sustainable. So if you want to get 25% off, use the code JACK25. Link is down below. Have a wonderful day. I love you all loads and I'll catch you next time. Bye-bye and subscribe!